The crack of Madison Walker's knee connecting with Ethan Morrison's ribs echoed through the courtyard like thunder. Her torn skirt whipped through the air as her body moved with deadly precision. Years of Muay Thai training condensed into this one perfect moment. The 6'2", 200-pound football star's eyes went wide with shock as he lifted off the ground, his body folding around her knee like paper before crashing onto the concrete. "Stay down," Madison said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Blood trickled from her split lip, but she didn't wipe it away. She wanted them to see it. All of them. The crowd of students stood frozen, phones out, recording everything. Someone whispered, "Did she just—" "Yeah," another voice answered. "She did." But to understand how Madison Walker, the quiet girl who read martial arts books during lunch, ended up destroying Oakwood High's star quarterback in front of half the school, we need to go back 6 hours. Back to when she thought this would be just another day of survival. Madison's alarm buzzed at 6:30 that morning. She lay in bed for a moment, fingers unconsciously tracing the thin scar on her left forearm. 5 years old now, but still a reminder. Still a promise she'd made to herself. The morning routine was automatic. Shower, dress. She chose her outfit carefully, not because she cared about fashion, but because she'd learned that certain clothes attracted less attention. Today, knee-length blue skirt, conservative white blouse, cardigan, invisible armor, in the kitchen. Her mother was already making breakfast, dark circles under her eyes from another double shift at the hospital. "Morning, honey," her mom said, not looking up from the eggs. "Sleep okay?" "Fine." Madison lied. The nightmares had been bad again, but her mom had enough to worry about. She sat down, picked at her food. Her gym bag sat by the door, packed with her training gear. Tuesday meant evening sessions at Samuel's dojo, the only thing that kept her sane. "Remember," her mother said, finally looking at her, "violence is never the answer." Madison met her mother's eyes. What if it's the only language they understand? The silence stretched between them. Her mother's face tightened, but she didn't answer. She never did when Madison asked that question. Maybe because deep down, she knew Madison was right. "Just try to have a good day, okay?" Madison grabbed her bags. "I always try." "Mom." Across town, in a house that cost more than Madison's family made in 5 years. Ethan Morrison was having a very different morning. The sound of ESPN blared from the living room where his father, Captain Morrison, retired, though he never let anyone forget his rank, was already 3 beers deep despite the early hour. "You see that hit?" his father yelled at the TV. "That's how a real man tackles. Not like the pussy shit you pulled last Friday." Ethan ate his protein shake and eggs in silence, jaw clenched. Last Friday, he'd made 6 tackles and thrown 2 touchdown passes. They'd won 35-7. But it was never enough. Nothing was ever enough. His phone buzzed. "Marcus, yo bro, let's mess with some freshmen today. Teaching respect, you know." Ethan stared at the message. His thumbs hovered over the keyboard before typing, "I got bigger plans." "What's that?" His father had materialized behind him, breath stinking of beer and disappointment. "Texting your little boyfriend. Just Marcus, sir." "Sir?" his father mocked. "At least try to be a man today. For once in your pathetic life." Ethan said nothing. He'd learned years ago that words were just another form of ammunition his father would use against him. Better to stay quiet. Better to save it all up for later, when he could let it out on someone else, someone weaker, in her mind. Madison flashed back 5 years, 11 years old, cornered behind the middle school by 3 eighth-grade boys. They'd surrounded her like wolves, drawn by something they couldn't name, but instinctively wanted to destroy. Girls don't belong in sports. The biggest one had shoved her. Hard. She'd stumbled, caught herself against the brick wall. Yeah, stick to dolls and makeup. Another push. Her backpack went flying. "Oh, gonna cry, gonna run to mommy." She had cried, hated herself for it, but the tears came anyway when they finally got bored and left. Her skirt was torn, her knee was bleeding, and something inside her had fundamentally changed. That weekend, she'd walked into Samuel's dojo for the first time. Coach Samuel, a soft-spoken man with hands that could break bones or heal spirits with equal skill, had taken one look at her and understood. "Why do you want to learn?" he'd asked. "So no one can hurt me again." He'd shaken his head. "Wrong answer. Try again." It took her months to understand what he meant, years to truly internalize it. The bruises came first, then the blood. Her knuckles split and healed and split again. Her shins turned to iron. Her mind became steel. "Pain is temporary," Coach Samuel would say as she struggled through another grueling session. "Surrender is forever." Now, walking through Oakwood High's front doors, Madison carried those lessons in her muscle memory. She kept her head down but her awareness up, cataloging threats and exits automatically. First period was English. Usually safe. Usually. She made it to her seat without incident, pulled out her book. Around her, other students chatted and laughed. Living in a different world. A safer world. Must be nice. "Nice skirt, Walker." The voice hit her like ice water. Ethan Morrison dropped into the seat behind her, his presence filling the space like a toxic cloud. She didn't turn around. "I said, nice skirt." A wadded paper ball hit the back of her head. "Shame it's on such an ugly bitch." A few students laughed nervously. Most looked away. The teacher, Mrs. Peterson, was conveniently focused on writing on the board. Though Madison knew she'd heard every word, Madison's hands stayed steady on her book, but underneath the desk. Her legs tensed. Muscle memory wanted to spin, to strike, to end this now. But Coach Samuel's voice echoed, "Control, always control." A true warrior chooses the battlefield. The paper balls kept coming, each one a small humiliation, each one adding to the reservoir of rage she kept carefully contained. Tyler Brooks, Ethan's teammate, sat to her left. She caught him glancing at her, something almost like sympathy in his eyes before he looked away and forced a laugh at Ethan's antics. The bell finally rang. Madison packed her things methodically, ignoring the paper balls littering her desk. As she stood, Ethan blocked her path. "Leaving so soon? We were just getting to know each other." "Move," Madison said quietly. "Or what?" He leaned in close enough that she could smell his expensive cologne mixed with the protein powder on his breath. "Gonna tell teacher? Gonna cry?" Other students squeezed past them, pretending not to see. The teacher had already fled to the hallway. Madison met Ethan's eyes for the first time that day. He wanted fear, needed it. Instead, he saw something else. Something that made him take an involuntary step back. "I said move." He moved, but covered it with a laugh. "Whatever, freak. See you at lunch." As Madison walked to her next class, she allowed herself one moment to imagine what would happen if she let the monster out. if she showed him what 5 years of training looked like when compressed into 30 seconds of violence. The thought was warm, comforting, dangerous. By lunchtime, Madison had found her usual spot in the corner of the cafeteria. Alone. But that was fine. Better than fine. It was safe. She pulled out her book. The Art of War Today seemed appropriate, and tried to disappear into the pages. The cafeteria hummed with typical chaos. Hundreds of teenagers crammed into a space designed for half that number. The noise level somewhere between concert and riot. Madison had learned to filter it out, creating a bubble of calm in the storm. She should have known it wouldn't last. The book was ripped from her hands before she saw them coming. Marcus Rodriguez held it up, examining the cover with mock interest. The Art of War. That's cute. Think this'll help you. Ethan materialized on her right, Tyler on her left, boxed in. Her exit routes calculated automatically. Through Tyler was fastest. He'd be the weakest link. Please give it back, Madison said, voice carefully neutral. Ah, she said, please. Marcus laughed. So polite. Ethan leaned on the table, his bulk making it creak. I think she needs to ask nicer. Maybe say pretty, please, on her knees. The cafeteria noise seemed to dim. Several nearby students had noticed the confrontation, but quickly looked away. Nobody wanted to draw Ethan's attention. Madison understood. She didn't blame them. Just give me the book, and I'll go. She tried again. On your knees, Ethan repeated, each word dripping with something dark and hungry. Tyler shifted uncomfortably. Dude, chill. There's teachers around. So, Ethan's eyes never left Madison's face. What are they gonna do? Besides, some girls like being on their knees. Right. Walker. The words hit their intended target. Madison felt the familiar surge of rage, hot and violent, begging to be released. Her hands wanted to move, to grab, to strike. 5 years of training screamed at her to act. Instead, she stood up slowly, leaving her lunch and book behind. Keep it, she said, and started walking away. Hey, I didn't say you could leave. Ethan's voice cracked with frustration. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. She was supposed to beg, or cry, or fight back stupidly so he could claim self-defense. Not this, not walking away with dignity intact. Madison kept walking. Behind her, she heard Marcus say, Forget it, bro. We'll get her later. No, Ethan snarled. This bitch needs to learn respect. Madison made it to the bathroom before the shaking started. Not fear. She'd moved past fear years ago. This was pure adrenaline. Her body preparing for violence that her mind wouldn't let it commit. She gripped the sink, staring at her reflection. Control, she whispered. Always control. 7th period meant PE, and Madison's heart sank when she saw the activity board. Co-ed volleyball. Of course. All right. Everyone, Coach Williams boomed. Random team assignments today, Morrison. You're captain of Team A, Chen. You've got Team B. The picks went predictably. Ethan chose his football buddies first. Then some basketball players, when it came time for the mandatory girls' selections. His eyes found Madison with predatory glee. Walker, he called out. You're with us. She could have begged off, claimed cramps or forgotten gym clothes, but that would be admitting defeat. Instead, she joined Team A, surrounded by boys who towered over her 5'5" frame. Hope you can keep up, Marcus sneered. The game started normally enough. Madison stayed in the back row, content to bump the occasional ball that came her way. But Ethan had other plans. The setup was obvious to anyone paying attention. Tyler bumped the ball high, right to Ethan at the net. Madison saw him tracking her position, saw the calculation in his eyes. She could move. But that would give him satisfaction. The spike came down like a hammer, aimed directly at her face. At the last second, she got her hands up, but the ball's force was brutal. It ricocheted off her attempted block and caught her full in the face. The impact sent her stumbling backward. Warm liquid flowed from her nose, dripping onto the gym floor. Oops. Ethan's laughter was sharp and ugly. Guess girls really can't handle sports. Coach Williams jogged over, but his concern was perfunctory. You all right? Walker, just a little nosebleed. Walk it off. Get cleaned up, Morrison. Be more careful with your spikes. Yes, Coach, Ethan said with false sincerity. Total accident. In the locker room, Madison stared at her reflection again. Blood had dripped onto her white gym shirt, creating abstract patterns. She tilted her head back, applying pressure like Coach Samuel had taught her after countless bloody noses in training. The memory came unbidden. Her third month at the dojo, sparring with an older student who didn't believe in going easy on the new girl. She'd taken a knee to the face, blood everywhere. Coach Samuel had calmly shown her how to stop the bleeding, then asked if she wanted to continue. I can't, she'd said. It hurts too much. Pain is information, he'd replied. It tells you you're alive, tells you what to protect. But pain is also temporary. What matters is what you do with it. What do you mean? Channel it. Store it. Pain can become power, but only if you don't let it control you. She'd gone back out and finished the sparring session, lost badly, but finished. That night, Coach Samuel had pulled her aside. You have warrior spirit, he'd said. But spirit without wisdom is just violence. I'll teach you both, but you must promise me something. What? Use what I teach you only when there's no other choice. The strongest warriors are those who choose not to fight. Now, cleaning blood from her face in a dingy school bathroom, Madison wondered if that choice was about to be taken from her. The final bell couldn't come fast enough. Madison had almost made it to the parking lot when she heard the sound that made her stomach drop, a girl crying, behind the auxiliary gym, in the spot everyone knew had no security cameras. Ethan and his crew had cornered a freshman. She was tiny, maybe 14, wearing a skirt that had probably looked cute and appropriate when she put it on that morning, but now seemed like a target painted on her back. Another short skirt, Marcus was saying. Must run in this school. All you girls are just asking for attention. The girl tried to sidestep them, but Tyler blocked her path. He looked uncomfortable, but didn't move. Please, I just want to go home, she whimpered. Hear that? Ethan moved closer. She wants to go home, but we're not done talking about appropriate dress codes. Are we? Madison dropped her backpack. The sound made all four heads turn. Let her go, Madison said. Ethan's face lit up with savage joy. Well, well, the hero appears. Come to save the day, Walker. I said let her go. Madison walked forward slowly, placing herself between the men and the girl. Now. Or what? Ethan stepped closer, his height advantage even more pronounced up close. You'll bleed on us. Madison didn't look at the girl, kept her eyes on the threats. Go, now. The freshman didn't need to be told twice. She ran, leaving Madison alone with 3 football players in a spot specifically chosen for its lack of witnesses. "Big mistake, Walker," Marcus said, cracking his knuckles. Madison rolled her shoulders, feeling the familiar looseness that came before combat. 5 years of training condensed into this moment. All the pain, all the preparation for this. "You know what?" she said, dropping into a subtle fighting stance that they were too stupid to recognize. "I've been waiting for this." Ethan laughed, but there was something uncertain in it now. Something about the way Madison stood, the way she seemed to grow larger despite being half their size, triggered primitive alarm bells. "Tyler, grab her arms," Ethan ordered. Tyler hesitated. "Here, bro. There might be cameras we don't know about." "I said grab her!" Ethan's voice cracked with rage. When Tyler still hesitated, Ethan shoved him. "Do it, or you're next." "Pussy." The word hung in the air like a poison cloud. Madison saw Tyler flinch, saw the moment his fear of becoming a target overrode his conscience. He started moving toward her left side, while Marcus circled right. In her mind, Coach Samuel's voice was calm and clear. "Let them make the first move. Self-defense requires they initiate contact. Be patient. Be ready." And Marcus struck first, trying to grab her from behind in a bear hug. It was sloppy, overconfident, exactly what she'd expected. Madison dropped her weight, turned her hips, and drove her elbow backward into his floating ribs. The strike was precise, targeting the liver. Marcus's arms went slack instantly as his body tried to process the shocking pain. A wheeze escaped his lips. "What the fuck?" He stumbled back, hand clutching his side. "Hold her properly, idiot!" Ethan screamed, his face turning red. But Madison had already reset. Hands up now, no longer hiding what she was. Tyler had frozen, caught between orders and the sudden realization that Madison Walker wasn't prey after all. She was the predator, and they had just walked into her hunting ground. "She knows how to fight," Tyler said, stating the obvious as he backed away from Madison's guard position. His voice cracked with the kind of fear that comes from realizing you've badly miscalculated. Ethan's face twisted with rage. "She got lucky. Marcus, stop being a pussy and grab her." Marcus was still bent over, trying to breathe through the liver shot. She hit me like a dude." "Because I train like one," Madison said, keeping her voice calm while tracking both threats. 5 years of Muay Thai, 6 days a week. So before you do something stupid, ask yourself, is this really worth it? The smart play would have been to walk away, to take the warning and leave with their pride bruised but their bodies intact. But Madison knew they wouldn't, couldn't. Not with years of toxic masculinity and unchecked privilege flowing through their veins like poison. "Behind the gym," Ethan snarled. "Now, no cameras there for sure." "I know," Madison said. "Why do you think I came here?" The words hung in the air for a moment before their meaning sank in. She had led them here, planned this. The hunter becoming the hunted. Except the roles had never been what they seemed. They moved as a group to the more isolated spot, Madison walking calmly while the three boys tried to project menace despite their growing uncertainty. The space behind the gym was perfect, enclosed enough for privacy, but open enough for movement. Madison had scouted it weeks ago, knowing this day would eventually come. "You know what your problem is, Ethan," Madison said as they formed a loose circle around her. "Shut up." He reached into his pocket and pulled out scissors, school scissors, stolen from art class, but sharp enough. "Tyler, Marcus, hold her arms. We're gonna teach this bitch a lesson about respect." Madison's breathing changed. Dropping into the rhythm Coach Samuel had drilled into her through thousands of hours of practice. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Calm the mind. Ready the body. "Your daddy never loved you." "Did he?" The words hit Ethan like a physical blow. His face went white, then red. "What did you say?" "Captain Morrison, dishonorably discharged for excessive force. Beats his wife. Beats his son. And now his son beats others, because it's the only way he knows to feel powerful." "Shut up," Ethan charged, scissors leading. Time slowed. Madison had drilled this scenario hundreds of times. Armed attacker, linear rush, emotional and sloppy. Her body moved without conscious thought. Sidestep, control the wrist, strip the weapon. The scissors clattered across the concrete as she used his momentum to send him stumbling past. "Just like I thought," she said, kicking the scissors away. "All anger, no control, just like Daddy." Ethan retrieved the scissors while screaming at Marcus. "Hold her, now." This time Marcus approached more carefully, but carefully wasn't enough. He managed to grab her from behind, pinning her arms to her sides. For a moment, Madison let him think he'd won. "Got her!" Marcus shouted triumphantly. Ethan approached with the scissors, his smile ugly and triumphant. "Let's see what you're hiding under that skirt." He knelt down and started cutting from the hem upward. The sound of fabric tearing filled the air. Madison felt the cold metal against her leg, felt the skirt separating, but her breathing never changed, if anything. She seemed to relax into Marcus's grip. "Bro, this is sexual assault," Tyler said, his voice high with panic. "This is too far." "Shut up or you're next, pussy!" Ethan screamed without looking up. "Your dad will hear about what a little bitch you are, how you couldn't even help hold down one girl." The skirt tore to mid-thigh. Ethan stood up, admiring his work. "There, now everyone will know what kind of slut you really are." Madison turned her head slightly, just enough to look back at Marcus. "Thank you," she whispered. "What?" His confusion loosened his grip for just a moment. "For giving me legal reason." The headbutt came without warning. Madison snapped her head backward with violent precision, catching Marcus square in the nose. The crunch of cartilage was audible, followed immediately by his scream as blood exploded from his face. His arms released her instantly as both hands went to his destroyed nose. Madison spun into her fighting stance, torn skirt fluttering. "You broke my nose!" Marcus wailed through his hands, blood streaming between his fingers. "You crazy bitch broke my nose?" "That's just the beginning," Madison said calmly. Marcus charged blind with rage and pain. It was exactly what she'd expected. The teep kick, a straight push kick to the chest, was one of the first techniques Coach Samuel had taught her. Your longest weapon against the closest target. Her foot connected with his solar plexus, and 200 pounds of football player flew backward into the brick wall. He hit hard and slid down, gasping like a fish out of water. "Holy shit," Tyler breathed, backing away. "Holy fucking shit." Ethan looked at his two downed friends, then at Madison. For the first time in his life, he was facing someone he couldn't intimidate, couldn't overpower with size alone. His hands shook around the scissors. "Lucky shots," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "I'm twice your size. I'll destroy you." Madison shifted her stance slightly. "Your dad tell you size matters must be compensation for something." The insult hit its mark. Ethan charged again, dropping the scissors to throw a wild haymaker. Textbook untrained fighter, all power, no technique. Madison slipped inside the arc of his punch and established the clinch, her arms wrapping around his neck and head in the plum position. "He hit you, didn't he?" she said softly, almost gently, as she controlled his posture. "When you were small, when you couldn't fight back." "Shut up." Ethan tried to muscle out of the clinch, but she'd been drilling this position since she was 12. Her hips shifted, and the first knee drove into his liver. His eyes bulged as his body registered the trauma. The liver shot is unique in combat sports. It doesn't knock you out, but the pain is so overwhelming that your body simply refuses to continue. "Made you feel weak," Madison continued, pulling his head down as her knee rose again, this time to the solar plexus. "Worthless, like you were nothing." The air exploded from Ethan's lungs. His legs wobbled. "So you do it to others." She stepped back slightly, measuring the distance, "because hurting people smaller than you is the only way you can feel strong." The final knee was picture perfect, rising straight up as she pulled his head down. Catching him flush on the chin, his head snapped back, eyes rolling white. For a moment, Ethan Morrison hung in the air like a basketball player at the peak of a jump. Then gravity took over. 200 pounds of quarterback hit the concrete, with a sound like raw meat dropping. He lay there, semi-conscious, groaning. Madison stood over him, her torn skirt fluttering in the breeze, blood still on her lip from earlier. "How does it feel? Being powerless, being humiliated by someone smaller than you." You can't do this," Marcus whimpered from his spot against the wall, still trying to stem the flow of blood from his nose. "You're just a girl." "Exactly." Madison turned to face him. "A girl half your size just destroyed both of you. What does that say about your whole world view?" "This is evidence of assault," Tyler said quietly. They all turned to see him holding up his phone. He'd been recording the whole thing. "Tyler," Marcus tried to shout but choked on his own blood. "Turn that off. Delete it." No, Tyler's hands were steady now, his fear replaced by something else. "Everyone needs to see this. Needs to see what we really are. What I've been letting happen." A crowd was forming now, students who'd heard the commotion, teachers finally responding to reports of a fight. They pushed through to find a scene none of them had expected Madison Walker, the quiet girl who read books at lunch, standing victorious over two of the school's most feared bullies. "What is going on here?" Principal Coleman pushed through the crowd, his face pale as he took in the scene. "She attacked us." Marcus pointed a bloody finger at Madison. "Out of nowhere, we were just talking, and she went crazy." Tyler stepped forward. "That's a lie." He held up his phone. "I have the whole thing on video. They cornered her. Ethan cut her skirt with scissors. She defended herself." The principal looked at the evidence, his face growing paler. This wasn't some minor scuffle he could sweep under the rug. This was sexual assault, filmed and witnessed. This should have been reported to me," he stammered. Madison laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Reported. Like I reported the harassment last month and the month before that." She pulled out her own phone. "I have every email, Principal Coleman, every report I filed that you ignored. Every time you told me boys will be boys or just stay away from them." "Let's discuss this in my office," Coleman said quickly, very aware of the crowd and their phones. "No," Madison's voice carried clearly. "We discuss it here, with witnesses, because I'm done being silenced. Done pretending this school doesn't have a problem." The crowd parted again as the football team arrived, led by their captain, Jackson Hayes. He took in the scene, his teammate and Marcus on the ground. Madison standing defiantly with her torn skirt. "What happened?" Jackson asked, his voice carefully neutral. "Your boys sexually assaulted her," Tyler said, before anyone else could speak. "Cut her skirt with scissors. She defended herself." Jackson looked at Ethan, who was struggling to sit up. "Is this true?" Ethan's mouth opened and closed like a fish, for once. He had no words, no bravado, just shame. "Get up," Jackson said coldly, when Ethan struggled. Jackson didn't help. "You're off the team, both of you. We don't need players who attack women." "You can't do that," Ethan finally found his voice. "My dad will." "Your dad will what?" A new voice cut through. Everyone turned to see Captain Morrison pushing through the crowd, his face already red with rage. He took in the scene, his son on the ground, defeated by a girl half his size. "You let a girl do this to you." The disappointment in his voice was like acid. "What kind of man are you?" For the first time in his life, Ethan Morrison looked at his father with something other than fear. "The kind you made," he said quietly. Then louder, "The kind you made, Dad. The kind who only knows how to hurt people smaller than him because that's all you ever taught me." The words hung in the air like an accusation. Captain Morrison's face went from red to purple. He took a step toward his son, fist raised, and everyone saw it, the moment where the cycle would continue or break. "Touch him, and I'll put you down too," Madison said quietly. Captain Morrison turned on her, and for a moment, violence crackled in the air like electricity. Then he saw something in Madison's eyes, not fear, not anger, just absolute certainty. He'd seen that look before, in combat veterans who'd been pushed past their breaking point and come out the other side changed. His fist unclenched. The sound of sirens broke the standoff. Someone had called for ambulances. As EMTs checked on Ethan and Marcus, police officers began taking statements. Madison's mother arrived, her face a mixture of horror and pride as she took in her daughter's torn skirt and bloody lip. "You fought back," she said softly. "I fought back." Madison confirmed. Coach Samuel appeared at her side, having been called by another student. He looked at the scene, at Madison's stance and the two boys being loaded onto gurneys, and nodded once. "Clean technique?" he asked. "Clean technique," Madison confirmed, "only what was necessary." "She did what I taught her," Samuel told Madison's mother. "Violence as an absolute last resort. She tried to walk away. They wouldn't let her." The next hours blurred together. Police statements, medical checks, parents arriving in various states of shock and anger. Through it all, Madison remained calm, recounting events clearly and without emotion. Tyler's video spread like wildfire. Within hours, "She need back" was trending. The footage was clear. The assault, the self-defense, the skill with which Madison had neutralized two larger attackers. By morning, news crews were camped outside the school. Madison found herself in the surreal position of being interviewed on national television. "What would you say to other girls facing similar situations?" the reporter asked. Madison looked directly into the camera. "Learn self-defense. Not to hurt others, but so others can't hurt you. The goal isn't violence, it's the ability to prevent violence against yourself." The impact was immediate and far-reaching. Martial arts schools reported a surge in female enrollment. Schools across the country began examining their anti-bullying policies. Real conversations about toxic masculinity and cycles of abuse started happening in places where they'd been taboo before. But the most unexpected moment came a week later. Madison was at the dojo, working through forms, when someone entered. She turned to find Ethan Morrison standing in the doorway. His bruises faded to yellow and green. Can I talk to you?" His voice was small, uncertain. Madison tensed, but Coach Samuel placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Hear him out," he said quietly. Ethan approached slowly, like someone approaching a wild animal. "I wanted to apologize. Not because my parents are making me. Not because of the lawsuit, because you were right." Madison said nothing, waiting. "My dad," Ethan continued, his voice cracking. "He's getting help, anger management. Mom threatened to leave if he didn't, and I'm seeing someone too, a therapist, to deal with everything." "Why are you telling me this?" Madison asked. "Because I want to learn," Ethan said. "The right way. Not to hurt people, but to be better, to break the cycle." Coach Samuel stepped forward. "Redemption begins with admission," he said. "But it requires genuine commitment to change." "I know I don't deserve forgiveness," Ethan said quickly. "I know what I did was unforgivable. But maybe I can learn to be different." Madison studied him for a long moment. She saw the boy who had tormented her, but also the child who'd been tormented in turn. The cycle of violence spinning generation to generation. "First lesson," she said finally, "respect. For everyone. Always. If you can't do that, you can't train here." Ethan nodded quickly. "I understand." "Second lesson," Coach Samuel added, "humility. You start at the beginning. White belt. Cleaning mats. Showing respect to every student, regardless of age, size, or gender." "Yes, sir." "Then we'll see," Samuel said. "True strength isn't about dominating others. It's about mastering yourself. That's a lifetime journey." 3 months later, Madison stood before a very different scene. The dojo's main room was packed with students, boys and girls, men and women, all learning together. She'd become an assistant instructor, helping Coach Samuel with the influx of new students. Tyler was there, having joined after the incident. He'd become an advocate for bystander intervention, speaking at schools about the importance of standing up against bullying. Even Ethan was there, in the back, quietly cleaning mats after class. His transformation wasn't complete, might never be complete, but every day he showed up, worked hard, and treated everyone with respect was a small victory. "Your body is a weapon," Madison told the beginner class, repeating the words Coach Samuel had told her years ago. "Your mind is the trigger, but your heart decides when to use them." The class repeated after her, "We fight, so we don't have to fight," as they began their drills. Madison noticed a new student, a small girl, maybe 11, with the same haunted look Madison had carried at that age. She made her way over. "First day?" Madison asked gently. The girl nodded, unable to meet her eyes. "Why do you want to learn?" So no one can hurt me again," the girl whispered. Madison smiled sadly, remembering her own first day. "Wrong answer," she said gently. "But don't worry. You'll learn the right one." She looked around the dojo, at Tyler helping newer students, at Ethan accepting corrections with humility, at Coach Samuel guiding them all with patient wisdom. The torn skirt that had started a war was long gone, but what it had revealed, the strength to stand up, the courage to fight back, the wisdom to know when to do both, that remained. The cycle could be broken. One student, one lesson, one choice at a time. Madison adjusted her belt and began teaching the girl her first stance. Outside. The world continued with all its violence and injustice. But inside the dojo, they were building something different, something better. One knee at a time. The local news interviewed Madison one final time on the 6-month anniversary of the incident, standing in the dojo where she'd found her strength. She spoke directly to the camera. "People ask if I regret what happened," Madison said, her voice steady. "I regret that it had to happen, but I don't regret defending myself." Too many victims stay silent because they think they're powerless. They're not. The reporter asked about Ethan's progress. Madison glanced to where he was teaching a young boy how to properly bow before entering the mat. "Healing isn't linear," she said carefully. "Some days are harder than others, but every day someone chooses to break the cycle instead of continuing it. Yeah, that's a victory." As the cameras packed up, that same 11-year-old girl from 3 months ago approached Madison. She was different now, shoulders back, eyes bright. "Sensei Madison, I think I understand the right answer now." "Oh," Madison smiled. "Why do you want to learn?" "So I can protect others who can't protect themselves yet. So I can be strong enough to choose peace." Madison felt tears prick her eyes. Perfect answer. The girl beamed and ran back to practice. Madison watched her go, remembering her own journey from victim to survivor to protector. The torn skirt had started a war, but what emerged from that battle was something far more powerful than violence. It was hope.